Netflix, you have some plot hole explaining to do. So today we are going to be talking about the new mystery / coming of age film Enola Holmes, starring Millie Bobby Brown, Henry Cavill, Sam Claflin, amongst others.
Enola Holmes quickly joins the other book-to-movie adaptations by starting off with narration from the main character. But they go one step further by straight talking to the camera, which I like. I always like when movie characters break the fourth wall and just talk to the audience. It makes it fun.
Enola Holmes lives a very eccentric, fun-loving, but slightly isolated life at the estate with her mother, the amazing actress Helena Bonham Carter. I adore her. I adore her acting in general, specifically as Bellatrix Lestrange, but also in this movie. Even though she has a very small role, she did great. The only people who are regularly in her life are her mother and the cook. As a result, she idolizes her brothers, specifically Sherlock Holmes, for whom she has saved every single case, newspaper clipping that she could. And importantly, who she wants to be like when she grows up. Now, this part will come back at a later point in the video, so pay attention. However, her brothers have not been back since she was young. I do kind of like the brother worship admiration trope or plot point that they've put in here. Firstly, because I feel like it's a lot more common to see the Sherlock Mycroft dynamic of two brothers who sort of just do not like each other. And secondly, because it adds an extra flavor to the trauma when the plot progresses. So Enola had what she considered the perfect life, but on the day of her 16th birthday, her mother disappeared, and that was the beginning of the end. After Enola's mother doesn't come home for 2 weeks, she calls her brothers to help find her, but they aren't what she was exactly expecting, and she is not what they were expecting. So I just want to say, as someone who got really, really used to the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock and the Mark Gatiss Mycroft, this was a weird scene in my head. The characterizations were just so off from what I was expecting that it was like a whiplash moment. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate Sam Claflin's acting and costume guy? Because they took this guy, and turned him into this guy. Now we have approached my first big issue with the plot. We find out later that Enola's mom is not only a feminist, she is a suffragette of ye olde times, namely one who is willing and ready to be violent. She's ready to get arrested, ready to blow things up, ready to fight to get her rights. She, out of everyone in this story, should know the potential hardships and struggles that she is setting her daughter up for by leaving her alone before she reaches her majority. Or, honestly, given that they are part of the landed class since they own an estate, until she gets married, she should also be the least inclined, most disinclined for this to happen to Enola. She would know that Enola would likely be facing a boarding school, finishing school, which for women were known to break their spirits to refine them. Also, the running away from a fate that she's trying to avoid trope is already a little contrived, but since Enola has been aged up from 14 in the books to 16 in the movies, 16 being the age of consent to marry for people in the upper classes, why would it not have been her running away to escape an arranged marriage? It seems odd that Mycroft, as snobby as he is, would not specifically mention or have set up a marriage that he would speak of to Enola as a reason for her to go to finishing school. He mentions, like, becoming a lady vaguely, and being a lady did mean getting married, but it would have made a better movie if it had been more specific. This also makes more sense when you consider that Mycroft, as a government employee, is somebody who is very focused on increasing his social standing, and the main way that people did that was by marrying off their daughters. That was how the Victorian times were. Anyways, Enola escapes from her brothers with the help of the money her mom was supposed to be using to take care of the estate, and on her way to London, she unwillingly helps another train rider escape death, and they sort of have to get off the train via defenestration of themselves and find their own way to London. And this is where Enola Holmes starts becoming a sort of period piece / Murder on the Orient Express action mystery even more, and I like it. The thing is, the mysteries that we're trying to solve in Enola Holmes are twofold, and when both combine, one or the other keeps getting dropped. So the two mysteries are, where is Enola's mom, and why did she disappear? That's the one. And then, who is trying to murder Tewkesbury? So firstly, Enola's reasoning for going to London needs to be more fleshed out. Enola essentially only goes back to London because she senses that her mom should be there. But given that she doesn't remember or understand that the meetings that her mom has been having in secret at her estate were suffragette meetings, there would be no reason for Enola to think that her mom has gone to London. In addition, Enola only gets dragged back into Tewkesbury's story because his assassin tries to torture and murder her to find Tewkesbury. But this doesn't make any sense. I'm aware that the reason that this happened can essentially just be summed up as plot. But you can still make it make sense by adding a couple more scenes. This movie was only an hour and a half long. Add some more depth. In the 1880s, the population of just inner London alone was already almost 4 million people. Enola was disguised as a boy when the assassin first sees her for maybe 10-15 minutes, where they are running. He is not seeing her full face, and then she's dressed as like a lady in full gown, corset, hair, makeup, everything for the rest of it. Like, how the hell are we supposed to assume he found her? How did he find her? There needs to be some sort of scene with him tracking her or going to the owner of the hostel that she was staying in, or him, I don't know, walking by Sherlock and him conveniently like dropping Enola's name and saying that she escaped on a train. Like, something needs to have happened. There's no way that he would have been able to find her unless he was literally with them on their way to London, and we are well aware that he was not, because it was like open fields. And another thing, even though Enola decides to go get more information on why someone is trying to murder Tewkesbury by going to his mansion estate, she is still on the run from her siblings. Her claiming relation to Sherlock was monumentally stupid, especially since, having saved all of the newspapers of Sherlock and having the great memory that she has, she should be able to remember D.I. Lestrade, if not by face, then at least by name. I get that Enola is helping with Tewkesbury's case because he's defenseless, and while she is kind and noble, it doesn't make sense for her to be that naive. I understand that she has been isolated, but she has been specifically trained by her mother to think and plan. She shouldn't be making this mistake. It was a spur-of-the-moment rash decision when she realized that they wouldn't let her investigate by speaking to them. But she, of all people, as somebody with like specific training by her mom, would have known that, plans don't survive the first encounter with the enemy. That's like textbook textbook make multiple plans. Okay, so after Enola finds Tewksbury, gets caught by Mycroft, and then escapes the finishing school that she's been imprisoned in spectacular fashion, they both learn after an action-packed scene where both of them nearly die that Tewksbury's grandmother was actually the one who had hired an assassin to kill both him and his father, who was actually successfully murdered, because they would have voted for a reform bill in the House of Lords that would have granted more rights to common people and women. And here we come up to another plot hole issue confusion. I can theoretically understand Tewksbury's grandmother murdering his father. They know definitively that he is going to vote one way for that bill. But Tewksbury has been hiding in London. He has not been acting out his role as a lord. He has been working as a flower boy in Covent Garden. There is no reason for him to do anything with the House of Lords reform bill, and he wasn't planning on it until he started getting murder attempts on him. His grandmother essentially created a self-fulfilling prophecy. All's well that mostly ends well. Enola's mom shows up at the new place that she is staying and essentially tells her, like, hey, you did great. I had to go do this, like, coup revolt, like, blowing up something to show the House of Lords what's what thing. And now that that's done, I still have other stuff I'm gonna need to do, so I'm not coming home. And then Enola decides to follow in her brother's footsteps and become a detective. She is, for the time being, safe from Mycroft, as Sherlock is choosing not to look for her. He kind of approves what she's doing, and Mycroft at this point can't be bothered because it's like too time consuming and she's like escaped too many times. And that's the end of it. We're Enola's still in London. We're hopefully getting a sequel where we might see the next story. We might see Tewksbury again. We might see new characters. Who knows? So one thing that I actually learned while I was researching this movie for the video is that the Conan Doyle estate is actually suing Netflix for their portrayal of Sherlock in Enola Holmes. Namely, they have stated that their Sherlock is too emotional, and they're claiming that the Sherlock Holmes novels in which he is portrayed as depicting emotion were written in the early 1900s, which means that those are not currently part of the public domain. So they're arguing over Henry Cavill. So they're essentially arguing that Henry Cavill acted with too much emotion as Sherlock. And that's kind of hilarious. I don't know how the case is gonna go. I don't think that case makes any sense, because while Sherlock may be depicted as emotionless, many an adaptation, Elementary, and even Sherlock, many an adaptation, even the BBC Sherlock has shown him depicting the occasional emotion. So yeah, I don't know how this case is gonna end up. I don't think it makes any sense. I'm pretty sure that you can't argue that emotion, that like a character having emotions is part of copyrighted, like is part of the public domain or not. But I don't really know how copyright cases are and how specific they are. I just thought it's something that's like, I just thought it's something kind of interesting about this movie, outside of just the plot. That is the end of this video. If you liked this video, please make sure to like the video, share the video to your various social media platforms, subscribe If you would like, I make videos every week, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you!